Today's voiceover talent is more than just a pretty voice.
Pretty voice.
Today's voiceover talent has to be a boss.
A boss.
Join us each week for business owner strategies and success with your hosts Ann Ganguzza and Gabrielle Nistico, along with some of the strongest voices in our industry.
Rock your business.
Rock your business.
Rock your business.
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss. A VO boss.
A VO boss.
A VO boss.
Hey everybody, welcome to the VO Boss podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguzza, along with my VO Boss bestie, Gabby Nistico. Hey Gabby.
Hello.
Gabby, I quit.
You can't quit.
Yes.
You can't quit me. You cannot quit me. This is not acceptable.
Some days I just want to quit. Not you ever. But some days I just want to quit. What I'm talking about is quitting clients sometimes that are frustrating to me. What are you thinking?
Well, this is fun because this topic was brought to us by our lovely team. When I first read it, I read it as, I quit quitting.
That means I'm never quitting again.
Exactly. And I was like, that sounds like a terrible podcast idea for us. And who does that? We're not quitters. And then I realized that I had the comma in the wrong damn place.
There you go.
So I quit, comma, quitting as an act of courage.
That's
or
right.
If you like, really a semicolon is what it should be.
Is it an act of cowardice or is it an act of courage?
I think, in so many situations, it depends on what is happening. Some things in life are simply too stressful and we are put through too much of an emotional roller coaster. And everyone's limit is different on what they can take and what constitutes proper self-care. And yeah, there are simply times where we have to say, I quit. I'm done. I can no longer do this because it is no longer conducive to a healthy environment for moi.
Yes, it is no longer bringing joy. I remember that I got out of the corporate world because it was no longer giving me joy. And I shouldn't say corporate world. Corporate world, educational world, whatever you end up doing for a living. If you quit because it no longer brings you joy, I would absolutely agree that is an act of courage.
Unto itself. I mean, let's think about what you're saying right now. That just having a job or having work that brings you joy. We are the first generation to think that way, I think. Can you imagine your parents? Could you imagine your folks like going, well, I quit because my job didn't bring me joy anymore? No, it's not. I know for my parents.
Well, you're right. If I think about my parents, no, the way it was is you went out and you got a job. I mean, you went to school.
Yeah.
You got that job and back in that day, you stayed at that job.
Exactly.
You got promoted.
And you simply accepted that work is work and it's sometimes terrible and it's not always happy and it doesn't always fulfill you, but it's what you have to do.
Well,
or it's
you're right.
what you're supposed to do.
And I think we're the first generation. And you know what? The millennial generation is the one who I think are bringing up the rear here by really wanting to find joy and genuine authenticity in what they do for a living.
Which is interesting because this is the very thing that some people misinterpret as entitlement. Mm-hmm. Because they want better, they expect better, they have a different standard about the things that they want to do for a living. And yeah, to plenty of other people that can, that's, you're supposed to work hard and you go to work and you put up with your boss gives you and you make your living and, those days are over. People don't really do that anymore. And I mean, certainly economically, we're not in a position where that's necessary.
Well, I think for a lot of our generation, we don't find out about the joy part of it until we've experienced a whole lot of frustration and stress in our current situation. And then we're like, you know what? There's more to life than this, right? There's got to be a place where we can follow our passion and follow our dream and make money doing so. And if those two things come together, it would be lovely because we do have to have, maybe a mortgage to pay, a family to feed. And wouldn't it be great if we enjoyed what we did for the majority of the day.
And, and circumstance doesn't always allow that for everyone.
True. Very true.
However, in an ideal world, yes, as entrepreneurs and as the people who are in control of our own money-making destiny, it would be lovely to think that we are only making decisions that bring us joy and happiness and that make us feel good about what we're doing and that we forsake all else.
And if you are not an entrepreneur, if you are in a situation working a corporate job, I think that companies are also getting wind now of what it takes to maintain a healthy employee, a healthy and happy employee, because overall you're going to get better productivity and overall everything is going to be better if your employees are happier.
You would think. I mean, I think back to us talking to Paul Strickwerda not long ago, and he made a great point about how, the European market, man, America's got to catch up, right? People get, 4 to 6 weeks of vacation a year. They get loads of time off for holidays. They get to really enjoy themselves in a way that we don't here. I mean, man, we try to cram a life into 2 weeks worth of vacation every year.
Isn't that true? It's been that way for a very long time over in Europe. But I do know that a lot of new companies that are popping up now, like the one that my husband works for, they are very much into keeping the employees happy with extra perks. Like there's no limit to personal time off. It just needs to be scheduled, or having company parties or whatever it is that can keep the employees happy and healthy and more productive.
Agreed. We're far past the stage of beatings will continue until morale improves. I think the corporate world has learned that that's not effective.
So I think we need to really step back and take a look at, in our own entrepreneurial businesses, we have choices. And it's sometimes hard to make choices and to know when a client or a job is not necessarily bringing us the joy that we so richly want and deserve, and when is a good time to just say no or to quit.
Well, have you ever quit?
I have. I've quit a client. I have quit multiple clients. Not a lot, because I try to be very well aware of who I'm working with in the first place before I start working with them. You can tell a lot when you're first bringing on a client as to what type of a client they're going to be. There's some telltale signs. I make the assessment early on, and so hopefully there's never a time where I have to say no, but I have walked away from some clients after like a second negotiation or a third, and just saying that this is probably not a fit for us. That, I believe, does take courage to say no and to walk away, because you are passing up opportunity.
Yeah.
What about you, Gabby?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of instances where I try not to use those exact words. I try not to, make it an I quit sort of thing. But I will say that I've distanced myself from a client very strategically to kind of phase myself out. I've also had instances where, especially when it comes to either time or money, and usually time was the factor, I've had to cut a client loose because I literally just could not serve them anymore because they were eating up too much of my time and it was causing me to lose money elsewhere.
Sure, absolutely.
In those situations, though, what I've always tried to do is bring them an alternative, is bring them a new candidate or somebody that I felt could pick up the workload.
Now, question for you, Gabby. If, let's just say, because time is money, right? And your client may or may not have been eating up money, so to speak, but instead we're taking up your time, which also, by the way, is money. Well, yeah. And we don't usually realize it, being, let's say, picky or, can we get that a little brighter, or let's have another retake, or can we have you do this line again? That sort of thing. So when that happens, Gabby, are you making a recommendation? Because I saw this in a forum the other day that said, I won't accept this money, but here's someone who will. And I thought that was kind of odd to say that that's too low for me, that rate is too low, but here you can talk to this person and they may be able to help you out. I thought that was kind of defeating the purpose of...
okay, I think on the surface surface, sure, it can look that way. That does, when you put it that way, it seems pretty harsh. But I mean, I know early on in my voiceover career, there were definitely jobs that I took and clients that I maintained that now I would never do. And so again, I think it comes down to if you have somebody who's up and coming, if you have someone who's relatively new, if that sort of thing.
And it's a good fit.
Yeah. I mean, there is a bit of a trade-off. Do I anticipate that that person is going to stay with them long-term either? Nope.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at least a solution in the interim for them to get what they need and get their jobs fulfilled.
So at what point, Gabby, do you cut them loose? Do you say, I quit? What has to happen?
There's been two instances for me that will warrant a flat out I quit. One is if we have exceeded my ethical standard and pushed that to a limit where I am so uncomfortable with whatever is going on that I just feel gross. If I feel icky, I no longer feel good about what I'm doing. That's it. I'm out.
What, and would this be content or would this be?
This is really where these are the kinds of jobs that usually, I mean, I've passed on well ahead of time because it's just not something I feel good about or I feel comfortable with. But if someone were to hire me for one thing and then the job sort of morphed in a new direction, no.
For me, I have a different type of work that I do consistently where that doesn't come up, I don't think, as much as it does for you because you have the opportunity of doing things that are commercially, that are being voiced or you know, whatever it is that you're doing that they may turn around and use again for other in other areas. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I think you're going to run into that style probably a lot more than me because...
Potentially.
Yeah.
And then the other one is... Some people, I've learned this lesson the hard way in life. Some people don't ever let go of a mistake. So if you've done something as a service provider and you've made an error and you have owned up to it, done everything in your power to try to reconcile what took place, you've offered solutions, you really are legitimately doing everything that is in your power to try to make the situation better. And the other party simply is not accepting of that. They literally just want to beat you up.
Yeah. Or they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah. They they want you to feel bad. They want to make the situation much more dramatic than it needs to be. That will typically prompt me to quit. And I mean, these are still extremes. These don't happen often. My cat just opened the booth. He just opened the door and came in here.
He's so talented.
He is...
I know this for sure.
A freak of nature, and he has thumbs. Okay. Anywho, he's in here with us now. All right.
Hi, baby. You're a good kitty.
He's not a good kitty. He's a devil. So yeah, I mean, so they are extreme situations, and no, we're not talking about something that happens every day, but
sure,
it happens. I had a situation not that long ago. I called you.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, and I was like, I need some perspective here. I had made a mistake. I owned up to the mistake, and man, I was just being beat up. And you were the one who said, this sounds really stressful. How much of this are you willing to put up with? And I had to sit back and think about that and go, oh.
Exactly.
Yeah, she makes a really good point, huh?
Yeah.
At what point is too much? Too much.
There's a certain factor to being in this industry long enough so that you can feel comfortable in quitting your client if need be. I think a lot of people struggle when they're just getting into the industry in saying no or quitting anything because they're so concerned with getting the gig and getting that experience under their belt. Where I think, guys, if something is causing you that much stress.
Let's go back to that moral ethical dilemma piece. Because at that point, no money is worth it. And
exactly.
You might need the job.
Point. I think it should happen once, and then you learn, and you say, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. I think that probably is what happens. But I think when you're first starting out, you don't always know, and you're not familiar with how demanding some can be. You may just try to stick it out, and then at the end of it, you'll be like, well, I don't think I'll do that again. I mean, that has happened to me.
Yeah.
I just am at that point where there's no amount of money in the world that somebody could pay me to put up with I'll be honest with you. My personality is that I don't like to do things over. I don't like to do anything twice. I get bored. And so if I have to do a retake, I just try to do everything right. If I did do extra takes for you in the beginning, but if you come back to me afterwards, to me it's like, oh God, really? In a way that makes my business better because I'm trying to get everything right the first time, and then I'll give them alts. I'll give them take twos. For me, it becomes a value add. And then if they come back to me too many times after that, then I start thinking, But again, I try not to get myself in the position in the first place. But if it should happen, I've got a, three strikes and you're out kind of limit.
There are also situations that are completely out of our control and that can sometimes blindside us. Companies and really everybody at this point, no one is immune to PR nightmares and scandal. Just a couple of weeks ago, my husband, who hasn't been working for his company very long, James was only there about 6 months or so because he's in a new career field. This was the first company to hire him once his education was complete, so that was kind of a big deal. Massive scandal. Owner of the company was arrested, 25 counts, crazy stuff going on. Sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, and he sent me the news article and I went, oh boy. And within 20 minutes of that, he called me and he said, can I quit?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, you can, because I'm not going to force you.
Well, yeah, you don't want to be associated.
No, that is purely guilt by association.
Sure.
It's a terrible position to be in. Now you've got, media, you've got law enforcement, you've all these crazy things that are now, surrounding your job, making it even more stressful. Plus he was just disgusted by what was going on.
Just like us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not just like us. That's quite a different story, but you will be physically affected.
Yes, and we have had similar type scandals in voiceover. Mm-hmm. That's that moment where you have to say, it's simply not worth it. I'm going to walk away from this, and whatever the outcome is, it is. Now, interestingly enough, he's already got another job in a matter of a very, very short period of time. But I could see where freelancers, voice actors could be very concerned about that of, oh God, if I quit, what's that going to mean? What's that going to do to me?
Well, I know that I've read in some online forums where sometimes the casting director or whoever's hiring the talent will be extremely rude to them in an email when they come back with a rate that is either insulting because it's too high, and then they'll turn to just nasty language. And I'll tell you what, that's the type of client that I don't have any problem from the get-go just saying, you know what? No. I have no desire for me to come into an entrepreneurial position and to do things on a daily basis that don't bring me joy. Well, guess what? That's not why I did what I did and became an entrepreneur and created my own business.
It doesn't make us weak. It doesn't make us less than. I don't buy into people who will go, oh my God, that was so stupid. That was such a, how could you do that? You didn't have another job lined up or you didn't have another gig lined up. That's just not how it goes sometimes. You have to self-preserve.
Well, yeah.
And
a lot of times that makes you all the more desirable. Remember back in the day when you would say no to someone, and then that just made them want... It just made it want you more for whatever reason, right? No, you can't have that, or no, I won't do that. And then they're like, but no, now I'll pay you double.
But wait.
But wait, no. And then all of a sudden, the power of no, and we've talked about this before, Gabby, in negotiation, the power of just saying no is just that. It is so powerful, where all of a sudden, when you know your worth and you can state that, and that's just going to make you all the more attractive to them.
You can't catastrophize. You can't think, oh, I'm never going to work again. No, that's such BS.
Yeah, exactly. Just like there are no emergencies in voiceover. As a matter of fact, even in my corporate job, my boss used to say, there's no emergencies in IT. I'm like, well, there is, but there's no mission critical things happening in voiceover. That's the way you've got to look at it. Let's put it that way. And any client that makes you feel that way, it's time to step back and take a look and think about, is it really true? Is this mission critical emergency if you don't have the voiceover in the next 1 minute?
And I hate to say it, but anyone who's used to working with LA and who knows that market knows that is how it behaves.
Oh,
yeah. Collectively, LA is so stressful and will make everything seem so critical right here, right now. And yeah, there's got to be a moment where you just go, yeah, no.
Well, I don't know if you want to bash LA because, I'm over here, but...
You know what I mean. It's just the industry mindset in that
there's
geography.
Absolutely an
hey,
industry mindset.
New York used to be like that.
Yes, absolutely.
For the longest time, it was New York. Now it's shifted a bit. And the West Coast is seeing the majority of that in the entertainment industry.
I would actually agree with you there.
You have to stop and ask yourself what evidence you have of an outcome. You probably don't. I mean, yeah, you can go through worst case, best case scenarios, but is there any evidence to support it? Because what do? We focus on the worst case. We focus on that super negative. Oh my God, if I quit, this is going to take place.
Sure.
Is it though? Is it really?
If this also has to do with demands that clients are placing on you, time-wise specifically, there are ways to kind of plan around that and strategize around that because obviously somebody that's doing commercial work versus somebody doing e-learning work is going to have a different time frame and time needs and wants versus somebody in promo, right? So as I said, like there's no emergencies in VO. In promo, they need you pretty much, when they need you. But there's a way to hopefully understand the schedule as much as possible because when it comes down to it, we're all human dealing with clients that are human and they're good clients. They will understand and they will be able to work with you within a reasonable range, whether it be time-wise, workload, whatever it is.
Yeah. Good point.
So you're so quiet there, Gabby. I thought I lost you.
No, I'm here.
I literally had a student today and I was like talking.
Oh, no.
Literally, and she dropped off her internet connection.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoopsie.
IPDTL. You know how much we love IPDTL. We need a little notice. Because I was on my...
We'll never quit IPDTL though.
I love IPDTL. And I was just and then this, I was in teacher mode, right? And so I was just having such a good time and I was explaining and going on. All of a sudden I realized I had been talking to myself for about a minute. And she had dropped off and I was like, whoa, wait, at what point, what did I say last? But anyways,
oops.
I will never quit IPDTL. We love IPDTL.
Never. We do. And another client we love, of course, voiceovers.com. Fair, effective, transparent, everything we have been asking for in the industry. Steadily bringing in work now.
Yep.
Auditions are coming in.
People are booking.
We want you to be on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Voiceovers.com. Check them out.
All right, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your hosts, Ann Ganguzza and Gabby Nistico. All rights reserved. Ann Ganguzza voice talent in association with 3 Moon Media. Redistribution with permission. Coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.